Hello, Sable, Truffles, puppy parents. This is your week 1 litter update. And in today's video, we are going to update you on each of the puppies individually. We'll give you a little bit of an update on their weight and their milestones, what they've been up to over the past week, what's coming up next week. We're going to give you an update here on Mama Juniper, how she's doing, what's changed with her and the puppies, and what we can expect over the next week with her. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the nutrition for the puppies. And then we're going to talk very briefly about choosing a name for your puppy and getting your house ready. Hi, I'm Claire from Isle Labradoodles, and we've got lots of things to talk about today. So let's delve right into it. The first thing I want to touch on today is the nutrition of the puppies. When you look at these puppies here, the one thing that you'll notice first and foremost is their coats are gleaming. They have so much shine on their coats, and we can see here just how much tummy we've got going on. You can see lots and lots of tummy in Mr. Blue Collar there, and that tells you that these puppies are well nourished and they have plenty of nutrition at the milk bar from Mama Juniper. So of course, all of these puppies right now are getting all of their nutrients and all of their nutritional needs met from Juniper's milk bar. So clearly, it's really important what Juniper eats. And it's not just what she's eating now, it's what she's eating before she gets pregnant, during her pregnancy, and of course while she's lactating. And then overall for Juniper herself, what she's eating for her entire life. So these puppies are starting off with a raw milk bar because Juniper eats 100% raw diet. Juniper has eaten that ever since she was born. Her mom was on a raw diet. That's our girl Ripple. And Juniper was weaned to raw food when she was first born, and she's been on raw ever since. Now you'll hear me talk lots and lots about raw food, and your puppy is going to go home to you on a raw food diet. And this is something new for most puppy parents. And for some people, it can seem a little bit overwhelming. It seems a little bit frightening. There's all sorts of lore on the internet, and you wonder, well, golly, do I have to buy some giant freezer? Do I have to do all sorts of preparation? Is it going to smell awful? And all these things. And the truth of the matter is none of that is true. Your raw food does not take up a whole lot of space in your freezer. Indeed, if you wish, you don't even have to use raw frozen food. There are excellent freeze-dried options now. Canine nutrition is an evolving topic and something that a lot of attention wasn't paid to previously. There weren't even any scientific studies on any raw food diets, so it was very difficult to know just exactly what was the best option for feeding your dogs. Things have come a long ways. As raw food has become more mainstream for our dogs, as more people see firsthand in front of them and learn to understand the difference between a highly processed food such as kibble and a raw food diet, more and more people are making the switch. Because really, what's the goal? Juniper, we want our dogs to thrive. Sure, they can survive on kibble. They can survive eating out of a dumpster. They can survive on almost anything. Dogs are natural scavengers. But what we want is we want our dogs to thrive. We want them to be with us and be fit and healthy for as long as possible. And the best way to do that is by feeding them a natural whole food diet. And whether it comes in the frozen format or in freeze-dried really doesn't make much of a difference. If you ask the dogs, they'll tell you that they overall generally prefer the frozen food format. That's more how they would be eating if we were not feeding them. So they tend to like that better than the freeze-dried, but all of our dogs enjoy eating freeze-dried too. And what I find makes the most sense is a rotation, a variety. And for some people that doesn't work. Some people don't like freeze-dried, some people don't like frozen, they just stick with one, and most people tend to do a combination of the two, right? Yeah. So why is it that a raw diet is better for dogs? Well, first of all, you can tell just on the surface that the difference between eating a diet that's natural and just is basically what you and I eat, or when we go and get a steak or a chicken or some fish from the store, eggs, whatever it is that we like to eat, vegetables, we get those, we make them, and that's great. That would be comparable to a raw diet for a dog. It's just we cook our food because our systems are different from dogs. A highly processed diet for dogs is kibble. And what is comparable to kibble feeding for dogs would be if you shopped and you bought the modern day equivalent of a TV dinner, lean cuisine, something that was all mass produced, highly processed. If you ate processed cheese rather than natural cheese, if you ate at McDonald's on a regular basis and ate a fast food diet, that would be very similar to offering your dog kibble. Can you survive eating that? Of course you can. I'm sure there's all sorts of people who don't enjoy cooking, who eat processed food regularly. Is it good for you? No, not really. And because dogs have a shorter life, you're going to see those detriments a little bit earlier. So you're going to pay more in vet bills in the long term. Your dog's life expectancy is going to be shortened, and overall they're just not going to thrive as much as they would if you gave them a natural diet. So one of the things that you find in a dog's diet is, of course, amino acids. And amino acids are what help to build strong muscles, and they also provide good immunity for our dogs. So essential amino acids are highly abundant in a raw food diet, whereas in a kibble diet, all the heat and the extrusion process to make kibble has virtually decimated any of the value in those amino acids. The other thing you're going to find is, interestingly enough, is improved brain function when you feed a dog a raw food diet. Their cognitive health benefits right from now, when we have these little puppies here who are in essence eating raw food, through to the senior years in your dog's life. We find that there are far fewer dogs who are suffering from dementia as they age when they have been on a natural diet, as opposed to dogs who are kibble fed. There is quite a bit of research coming out on this now. It's a new subject, so there's not a lot of studies that have been published, but there are some that have already been published. Then there's all the healthy antioxidants that we find in a raw diet, as well as the good bacteria. So we all know about probiotics, and we all know that it's really important to have a healthy gut, and eating a raw diet is what helps dogs have that healthy gut. There's all sorts of beneficial phytonutrients. There's the enzymes that help aid their digestion, the antioxidants, and then all of the essential fatty acids. So all of those things are, of course, really key and important items in your dog's health, and things that you want to be able to be offering them. The other thing that's an added benefit is much better dental health. Raw-fed dogs do not tend to have the same level of plaque and tartar buildup. So you can see Juniper's got some here. So it's not like you're guaranteed they're going to have perfect teeth. Juniper's probably going to have those scraped off by the time she's, probably 5 or so. But you're not finding all the gum disease, and it's not, that little bit of tartar she has there is not thick. I could scrape that off with my fingernail if I wanted to. So the real key, and one of the problems with raw food that a lot of people have run into is vets tend to not be fond of it. And so if your vet doesn't like it, then how can it be good for your dog? And part of that is just a matter of education. Vets don't learn about nutrition in school unless they choose to have that as their specialty. It's just like your vet that you're going to go to probably doesn't know very much about reproduction unless they have chosen that to be their specialty. Our vet that we have, while he is not a certified reproduction specialist, he is a general practitioner. He, however, has a huge interest in breeding and has a very large clientele of breeding dogs. So he sees puppies all the time time. He sees girls that are breeding dogs and is very, very familiar with all of those aspects. He doesn't, however, have an interest in nutrition and will tell you, quite frankly, that he doesn't know a whole lot about it. Now that we're getting more studies coming out and raw food is evolving, this is changing, and you'll find if you have a younger vet, they tend to be much more, they're well versed in the advantages of a raw diet, and they are not as opposed to it. What vets were seeing before was people who were trying to DIY their dog's diet, and they were making their raw food, and it wasn't balanced. How would you even know? Sure, you can go get a recipe. There's lots of recipes for raw food on the internet. There's lots of books of them. But how do you know if that's working for your dog? Unless you run an independent lab analysis of what you're making them every day and you do blood work on your dog regularly, you're never going to know if you're meeting all of their needs. Now what we have is manufacturers who meet both the AFCO, that's what you'll see on kibble, and the NRC, that is the guideline for raw food. They're meeting both of those standards. Now, AFCO was designed for kibble, so it's very difficult to make it as meaningful and applicable to raw food. However, there is lots of raw food options now that are all meeting and, well, they all exceed the AFCO standards. And then the other one is the National Research Council, NRC, and those are the standards that we like to see raw food meeting. And even those are not particularly current. They're 8 years, 9 years old now. So what we want to have is a company who is meeting those two criteria. And then we can be sure that things are all right for our dog. And they lab test their foods regularly. So all the foods that we feed and that we actually offer through our other little business, our little store, Curated Canines, all meet these criteria. We don't sell anything that doesn't, and they're all Canadian except for one. We do try very hard to have Canadian foods. So that's just a little synopsis on why it is that we like to use raw food. I've been feeding raw food since 1981, when people looked at you and you went, "You're doing what?" But if you think back to before kibble became so popular just because it's convenient, people would, when they had dogs on their farms, dogs ate a raw food diet. We just didn't call it that. It wasn't all very carefully calculated, and dogs did fine. Dogs lived longer lives then. It's not just kibble. You can't blame kibble for the reason why dogs have shorter lifespans now. There's multiple reasons why, but certainly you can give them the best chance to thrive, both physically, mentally, and very much they enjoy it if you feed them a raw diet. So now let's talk a little bit about Miss Juniper and what she's been up to. So you can see she's on away from the puppies. My legs are separating her and the puppies, and that's not because we did it intentionally. That's what she chose to do. Now that they're waking up a bit and starting to talk, I suspect she'll want to get closer to them. At week 1, she's comfortable. This is her final litter. This is her retirement litter. Hello, sweetheart. She wants to make sure I'm not paying attention to the puppies, only paying attention to her. She figures that now the puppies are doing quite well, and she's feeling much more confident about having more attention being paid to her. Juniper is a very communicative dog. She has, as you can see, enormously strong eye contact. She loves affection, and so she is quite anxious now to have more time being spent with people rather than just being dedicated to lying down and nursing the puppies 24/7. So we'll see next week. She'll probably not even be in the box the whole time. So she comes out now and she spends some time in the house, and by some time I mean about 5 minutes. That's about it. That's her threshold. But previous to the 1 week mark, you would get about 2 minutes away from the puppies, and that was the most that she felt comfortable leaving them with. So you can see Juniper herself has a nice shiny coat. She has beautiful bright eyes. She has a great appetite, good good energy, and she's not skinny. She's not got hair falling out. You'll see lots of dogs who, when they become moms, they're just bone thin. You can see all their bones protruding, and they have hair falling out all over the place. And that's because they are not being nourished properly. She's eating about 3.5 to 4 times as much as she normally eats right now. And her guardian mom's going to come and pay her a visit tomorrow, and I know that's going to be the highlight of her week. Now, let's talk about the puppies and what have they been doing. Well, at this age, all they do is eat, sleep, repeat. Eat, sleep, repeat. Now, most everybody knows puppies are born with their eyes sealed shut. But a lot of people don't realize their ears are also sealed shut. So they can't hear anything and they can't see anything. And so you might be wondering, well, why is that? What is the thinking behind having them born without the ability to see or hear? It's because their nervous systems are not developed enough for them to be able to handle that overload of stimuli. And that's why they open their eyes first and their ears subsequently. And they open their eyes at various times because it's just when each individual puppy is ready. It's not before and it's not after. Some puppies will open their eyes around day 10, some even around day 9, and some puppies wait until it's day 20. If it's day 18 and they don't have their eyes open, generally I will take them in just to make sure there's nothing wrong, there's no reason why their eyes haven't opened, and then we just leave them to open on their own. Otherwise, we do leave all of these things to happen naturally. Now you can see as you've been watching the puppies here, they're doing the herky jerkies, lots of twitching. And people often think, oh, look at the puppies are dreaming, look at them go. They're actually not dreaming. They may be dreaming, who knows? But what the purpose of all of this jerking around is, because puppies spend most of their time doing this, sleeping, or nursing, that's about all they do, it's important that their muscles are going to be able to develop, to get stronger, and to be toned. So nature has devised this way for them to jerk around and be moving even when they're sleeping. And that way they're continuing to develop those strong muscles and the ability in the next couple of weeks to start tottering around on all 4 legs. So that's what you're seeing when they're doing all of those herky jerkies. Now you may also wonder, well, how the heck do they find their way around if they can't see or hear? Well, they depend completely on their little noses. And we'll use Mr. Burgundy's nose here, Pirate, because it's bright pink, so it's easy to see. Little puppies this age, they actually have heat sensors in their noses, and they use those heat sensors to find the source of heat, and they gravitate towards it. So that's how they find one another, and they can pile up together. And they pile up together for warmth and for, of course, emotional comfort and a sense of security. But if I come in here and Juniper's not here, they'll all come to me because I'm a source of heat. They'll try to nurse off of my leg and they'll wonder, well, what the heck, this milk bar isn't very good. But that's how they do everything. They are completely dependent on their nose. And we're going to talk a lot about noses and how those are important for dogs over the next few weeks. So all they're doing is sleeping, eating, and growing. That's their only job right now. Nothing happens to them. They're comfortable, they're warm. We still have the room at 23 degrees. They have a little bit of ability to maintain their body temperature now, but not much. So what we're looking for is them to be cuddled up like this. We don't want them all in a big lump and kind of shivering, because that would mean they were cold. And we don't want to see them spread all over the box with their legs out like this, because that means they're too hot. So over the next week, we'll watch them carefully and see, are they starting to spread out all the time? Do we need to turn the temperature down by a degree? Usually around week 2, week 3, we turn it down to 22. And then before we move them into the doodle den, we like to have them down to 21 degrees. So over this coming week, we may see some eyes starting to open. So when we come back for our week 2 update, maybe we're going to see some of those eyes. I always love it when they open their eyes, because that's when you really start to feel the connection with the puppies. So now let's go through each of them and give you a little bit of an update on them. And we're going to do them in birth order as always. And so puppy number 1 is Blue Collar Boy here. And you can see he's got that pretty chocolate coat. I'm still not sure if he is a Sable or if he's a Phantom. And when we pick them up, we make sure they feel our hands. We give them a second just to realize that, oh yeah, this is what's going to happen. We're going to get picked up. Because of course in dog world, there is no picking up that's ever done. Hi. And I talk to them because it's just natural for us to speak to them. I make sure they know it's me, that they get a little snuggle there. Plus I like to kiss them. Shh, don't tell anybody. But then they know it's me. They can smell me. I might give them a little rock like I'm doing right now. And I just hang on to them. Now, one of the things that we're doing right now as well is getting them ready for some what we call early neurological stimulation. And we'll give you a little bit of information to that to our families, but basically it's a series of very short little things where we do something as simple as that. And it's to help them learn how to deal with unexpected things, and that helps them to become calmer and more balanced puppies. So Mr. Blue Collar Boy, he is 516 grams now. Now, of course, today we're looking to go like, have they doubled their birth weight? We ideally want them to have doubled their birth weight in the first 2 weeks. By day 10 is great. If it's before day 10, we're like, holy smokes, that's amazing. Mr. Blue Collar is just a couple of grams short of doubling his birth weight. That's probably because I have weighed him earlier today, well, so we could film the video. If I weighed him at his normal time, he would be up to doubling his birth weight. So that's Mr. Blue at 516. So I'll put you down there. And Mr. Blue is followed by Mr. Green. And this is Mr. Green here. Now, Mr. Green is a Sable puppy. You can see this dark line right down his back here in the center of his back. That is the biggest giveaway of a Sable color puppy. But you can see how much darker his tail is right at the front of his head here and his ears. So he's a chocolate Sable. This puppy is going to be really cool, as his color is going to change a lot over the coming years. He's probably going to end up this shade here that he has at the end of his paws. It's kind of a biscuit parchment kind of color. Hi, handsome. How you doing? Mr. Green is 479 grams, and he has more than doubled his birth weight. He's just the cutest little guy, aren't you? And he is the smallest puppy in the litter, but he's clearly having no problem getting to the milk bar and getting his fair share since he has already doubled his birth weight. He actually did that on day 6. So that's quite an accomplishment, especially for a small baby boy. And next we have our only girl, who is Miss Red Collar. And she's just over here. There you go, buddy. You okay? There we go. Miss Red Collar. And she is the biggest puppy in the litter. And it's quite often that we find that we go from the smallest to the biggest, or the biggest to the smallest. And we'll just slide her out here because Mr. Orange is using her as his little blanket or pillow there. Oh my gosh. Look at that enormous yawn by Miss Red Collar Girl. Miss Red Collar Girl is 577 grams. She has doubled her birth weight. And this little girl, I do not believe is a Sable. I do believe she's a Phantom. And the Phantom is where we have these pretty tan markings that are similar to what you see on a Yorkie, a Doberman, or a Rottweiler. Hi, puppy. And they're back on her hind legs too, and even in the vent area under her tail there. So this little girl, even though she's the only girl, she's the biggest, and she's having no problem getting her fair share at the milk bar. And this is a very good point in that lots of people think, oh, a boy is going to be bigger than a girl. That's not true at all. It's absolutely has nothing to do with their sex. It's just like there is no difference in the temperament of a boy or a girl. It is all in each individual dog and then how you raise them. Next we have Burgundy Boy here, or the dog that I call Pirate. If I can get him up from underneath everybody here. Oh, there we go. There we go. And we call Pirate Pirate because he's got that one patch on his eye. Now this guy's a tri. That means he is actually a phantom, the same markings as red collar and a party, which is the two colors. You just don't see the phantom markings because of the party markings. But if you flip his little ears up, you can see in here that he has those phantom markings. So that's how we know that he's a phantom. And Mr. Burgundy Collar is 539 grams. He did not double his birth weight yet, but you can see that that's not a problem for him. He is one chunky puppy. He is not having any problems with anything. He's just not at the point where he needs to double his birth weight yet. So I expect in the next 2-3 days, we will see him at that doubling mark. And we may also see in the future that Mr. Green Collar, who's the smallest dog, ends up being the largest, and Miss Red Collar ends up somewhere in the middle, for instance. And then finally we have Mr. Orange Collar, who is everybody's pillow at the moment. And Mr. Orange Collar is similar to Green. He too is a Sable rather. There we go. He's just a little bit darker in color. And does that mean he'll stay darker in color? Maybe. Sable is a really interesting pattern. Every single Sable puppy is unique. Of course, every puppy is unique, but it is not a pattern that you can predict exactly what's going to happen. And you can see there right on the end of his toes, he's got some very dark markings there. That is the Sable black banding that he's got going on there. That's a pretty cool little thing. Oh, I'm just so tired and I disturbed you. And Mr. Orange Collar is 516 grams. And he too has, so he is the exact same weight as Blue Collar, but he did double his birth weight as he was smaller than Blue at birth. So that's all the puppies there and what they've been up to. Right now when we do these updates, there's not a lot that they have been doing because they are eating, sleeping, eating, sleeping, eating, sleeping, and that's it. So next week we will see when they start to open their eyes, and they'll be starting to open their ears, and then they'll be starting to move around. And before you know it, it'll be time for you to come for your puppy family visit, and they'll be like regular puppies doing everything. It's quite amazing how much they develop in such a short period of time. Now, if you're on this litter list, boy, are you ever lucky. These are spectacular dogs. I couldn't be happier with this litter. You're going to get a video that is going to give you in-depth instructions and things to think about for setting up your house for welcoming your puppy home. Now is the time you want to be doing this. When you've got time, you want to walk around, look around, figure out all sorts of things. Where's the puppy's going to eat, sleep, and by sleep I mean rest during the day. For sleeping, they're going to be beside your bed in their crate. And you're going to get that crate, the proper size crate, the crate that will last them for a lifetime, the crate that they're going to be trained to sleep in through your puppy starter kit. For their resting area in the house, you're going to get your X-Pen from your puppy starter kit, also your donut bed that's going to go in that X-Pen, and all of the toys that you need to keep your puppy happy while they are resting in their safe place in your house. You're also going to want to pick what door they're going to go out of to go to the bathroom. And you're going to want to make sure there's many things to consider. All of these things will be talked about in the video. And then when you're picking a place for them to eat, of course you'll get your bowls and the mat, the non-slip mat that they're used to eating out of. That's also in your puppy starter kit. You're going to want to figure out where you're going to place that, because you want to have that in a quieter area, but still somewhere where you can be present. You don't want to put the food down and then leave your puppy by themselves, at least not at first. So those kinds of considerations, zones that are going to be puppy free. I quilt, so I use my X-Pen to block off the quilting area so no puppy can get back and get into any errant pins or needles or anything like that, or thread. We don't want them to be exposed to any dangers. Same as in our office, we make sure that all the cords are secure, out of the way, and the puppies can't get into them. The one thing you want to be sure that you keep out of your puppy's way is your cell phone and your remote control. Those are two very popular items, even more than shoes. Expensive and something that you need all of the time. Those tend to be the things that you notice that puppies do get into. So you have to get used to putting things up high, just so it's out of reach, that's all. And then the fun thing, now it's time to start thinking about a name. So think of something that's unique, something that's interesting, meaningful to you. Maybe you want to have a tie to Vancouver Island, maybe to Juniper and Bojangles' names, maybe to the litter name, Sable, Truffles, maybe to something that is completely interesting and meaningful only to yourselves. I really suggest you avoid the very popular names, which right now are things like Lucy, Bailey, any sort of variation of Finn, because you don't want to be out with your dog and you're out there having a walk and you say, hey, come on, Bailey, and 15 dogs come running. So try to think of a name that is your dog's and your dog's alone and has some actual significance. And it's great if you have a 2-syllable name and you can shorten it. So Juniper, for example, we call her Junie or we call her Juju. We have all sorts of little nicknames for it, but Junie is easy. And that way when you're talking to your dog, you can go, oh, Junie, that's great. Come here, Junie. Come on, Junie. And when you have something more serious, then it's Juniper. Juniper, come here. When you want to do that. And you'll see when I use that voice, who came? Juniper did, because she knew that was the serious voice and meant she better pay attention. What a good girl you are. Whereas when I say, Junie, 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 she said, that's okay. Whatever I'm doing is all right. She was just off camera there having a little break from her puppies because she's quite happy if Mama Claire comes in and looks after them and she has a little rest on her own. So that's your litter update for this week. I hope you enjoyed it. We really appreciate it, and oh my goodness, it helps us so much if you have the ability to take some time and post a comment on the video for us. All these things are governed by algorithms, and YouTube really likes to share videos when they have some comments. If you don't have time for that, maybe just a thumbs up. That would also be really appreciated. We hope you're subscribed to our channel. We try to talk about something different in each of our litter updates, and that way if you subscribe and hit the notification bell, you'll know whenever we have a new one out. We're expecting another litter in about 2 weeks, and so we will have more puppies to share more information about, and we're hoping that Juniper will be okay with having a roommate next door. We'll see how that goes. Stay tuned for that and for your week 2 update coming up next week. Thanks so much for watching. It's a good girl. I love you. What a baby. That's a good girl.